Everybody, hey guys, welcome to the Highland Gamescast. I'm Daniel. There's Luke. That's Jesse. Anyway, so you guys know, you all love it when we go through these articles because they're bad. So we pulled up an article from The Gamer. They're called The Gamer, so you know they're legit. That's how you know. 20 unresolved mysteries and plot holes. The Legend of Zelda left hanging. You guys ready to cringe? We're gonna just pick out a handful of things to examine here. We're gonna determine, is this article, is it good? Is it bad? Should you click on it? No, you probably shouldn't. So
we do the
Jesse,
clicking so you don't have to.
Yes, well, I spare you from the fate of reading these because half the time people will be like, guys, I've got it. This is an article with cool Zelda theories. The Rito are evolved from the Zoras. And we're like, that's not a theory. That's just a thing that happened.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So we like to just spare you guys the pain. We'll take the pain for you. Sorry, Luke, you've just been volunteered to do this with actually giving your consent. You must suffer with us.
Okay. We also have a series called Myths and Misconceptions where we do something similar to this, where we go through 10 different things from each game series, like popular theories that people believe are true that have been debunked, or facts about games that just aren't true at all. Like, do we have an example? Like BuzzFeed saying that every Link is the descendant of a previous Link, when almost none of them are. Like, one definitely is, but it's not like their son, as BuzzFeed says. It's like a descendant, like great 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 grandson or something like that, after hundreds of years. And then there may be one other example, like maybe Phantom Hourglass to Spirit Tracks, maybe, I don't know. But definitely not Wind Waker, definitely not Ocarina of Time. Like, there's just nothing to back up any of that. It's just like the one Link.
Especially in Wind Waker, when the King of Red Lions is talking to Jabun, and Jabun asks if the Wind Waker Link is the hero of time, and King of Red Lions says that this boy has no connection to the hero of time.
Yeah. Because the hero of time vanished in that timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's others on there that you can go watch. But you can comment below, let us know what other series that you want us to cover, and get all of the fake rumors and facts and stuff, and give you real news about it and real facts about it, and clear out all of these myths and misconceptions about the game, which is where the channel, where the series name comes from. And this, what we're doing now, is kind of something similar. We're just going down a list that, instead of what we made, we're going down other people's list, because these lists are where these myths and misconceptions come from. And you guys always send us these lists to look at, and it just makes us cringe. So, starting out with number 10, while Daniel and Luke find theirs on here, we're each just going to do one from the list because we don't want to go on too long. It says, Lost in Time. Since Hyrule Historia came out, it's been revealed where all the games fit in the Zelda timeline. The timeline alone is pretty complicated, even though it's not, and it splits into 3 branches at one point, thanks to Ocarina of Time. But there's one game that doesn't fit in the timeline yet. Since Breath of the Wild came after Hyrule Historia released, it makes sense that it's not on the timeline. But where exactly does the game fit? Nintendo hasn't released any official information on it, and the information in the game doesn't really give us a good idea when this game takes place. That and everything there was a complete lie. So, before Breath of the Wild, there was also another game that released called Triforce Heroes. That at first, it did have a confusing launch. They said Triforce Heroes takes place off the timeline. It's just its own thing existing on its own. Sort of like the Tingle games. And then they were like, oh, well, if it doesn't connect to the timeline, maybe some Zelda fans may not be interested, since it's not your typical Save the Princess Zelda game. So, at the last minute, they were like, no, it is in the timeline. It's a direct sequel to A Link Between Worlds, and in fact, you play as the exact same Link days after the ending of A Link Between Worlds.
She just looks completely different for some reason.
Yeah. So those were official statements, like literally official statements from Nintendo saying it's its own thing, like the Tingle games. And then like a few days later being like, no, it does belong in the timeline. In fact, it's a sequel to the last game on the 3DS. But anyways, with Breath of the Wild, here it says, Nintendo hasn't released any official information on it, and the information in the game doesn't really give a good idea. Okay, so in the game, there's tons of information to tell you where it takes place. It gives hints to a bunch of previous games. Nintendo has officially came out and said that it takes place long after all the other games. So right there, they give you information on it. Aonuma, in an interview, was asked, because this game has Koroks and the Great Deku Tree, and they worked on Wind Waker HD before they worked on Breath of the Wild, or while they were working on the pre-production of Breath of the Wild. So, is it connected to Wind Waker? Aonuma, the guy who created the game, straight up says the story of Breath of the Wild has no connection to Wind Waker. They just thought it was easier to literally copy and paste the models of all the Koroks into the game instead of presumably creating, because at first they had the Kokiri. So instead of designing like hundreds of Kokiri children, maybe, I don't know how many there would have been, they just copied and pasted all the Korok models. Because at first they were going to have Master Sword pedestals everywhere instead of Koroks. Koroks was a way better idea. I don't know why they wanted to do the Master Sword pedestal. Like, it was in A Link to the Past where they had the fake pedestals. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just weird stuff. And then he also said that it takes place, like he did confirm, it did take place long after A Link to the Past, in a time where Hyrule and Ganon have gone to war over and over and over again. And he said that...
He said Ocarina of Time, not A Link to the Past.
Did I say A Link to the Past?
You did.
Oh, well, I meant Ocarina of Time. It takes place like long after Ocarina of Time, where Hyrule and Ganon have gone into war over and over and over again. And then the last thing that I think he said was, if you play through Twilight Princess HD, then a lot of things will be very familiar in Breath of the Wild, or playing Breath of the Wild will make you think of Twilight Princess HD, which it does because it has the thing in it that looks like the Twilight Mirror. Of course, you can summon Wolf Link everywhere. So he gives hints at where it is. And then they came out with their own updated timeline on their official website. Daniel, what did that do?
Gave us nothing, really. I mean, well, it put it at the end of all three timelines.
Yeah. Instead of being at the end of one timeline, it's at the end of all three. For you, like, you can either pick which timeline you want it to be in, or you can look at it as it's literally in all three timelines. Like, it's up to you to decide, basically. But saying that there's no information that they've given us and stuff, or saying like the timeline's complicated, like, no, if you know the story of the games, like, the
Jesse,
timeline actually does make sense.
When to get all that, they would have had to have done research or paid attention.
Yeah, that's right.
And they just want the click.
Kind of like Matt Pat.
They just need the click.
They just want the click.
No,
That's all they want.
So we have
They don't want to do research.
This is another thing connecting to this. This is why I wanted to talk about it.
Click.
So
Click.
Daniel came
Click.
up. Miss Click is awesome. Daniel came up. Wait, is she in the chat? Hi, Miss Click.
No.
She'll watch the video later.
Okay.
She watches the podcast. So there's so Daniel was the very first person in the entire world, like literally the first person in the world, to post a video about the Dragon Break in Breath of the Wild, which is where different multiple timelines
before the game came out.
yeah, multiple timelines come together, which is something coming from Elder Scrolls, and it's something that Aonuma has mentioned that it has happened in the past with Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask ends with a dragon break. Every time you go back in time in Majora's Mask, you're essentially creating a new timeline. One where you rescue the bomb lady, one where the thief steals the stuff from the bomb lady, one where the bombs explode and he dies.
One where you do one dungeon and not the other 3, and etc.
Yeah. And then at the end of the game, if you did everything right, at the end of the game, you'll see everyone is happy.
Yeah, like all of the endings happen. And that's even, I go into pretty good detail in my video, but there's even, like not only in Majora's Mask, where that for sure happens, but Skyward Sword also has a dragon break, because you go kill Demise, and then you go back in time and kill Demise again, and somehow both of those still happen.
Yeah.
Without a timeline split.
And so with that, but with Aonuma confirming that games in the past have had timeline splits, or whatever, not timeline splits, but dragon break, which is the opposite of a split. It's where the timelines come back together. Like, he's confirmed that's happened in past games before.
So, even Ocarina of Time, every time you go in the future and there's no bean planted, and then you go back in time and you plant the bean there, and you go back to the future and now there's a plant, that's a dragon break technically.
Yeah.
Like,
so, but that's just like an instant dragon break.
But it's like a mini tiny one, but still.
Yeah, because everything that you did before you went back in time still happens in the future.
Yeah.
Like if you stop 𝐓𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷 and you go back in time and do something else and then come back, like the volcano is still calm. Like it doesn't reset it or whatever. So yeah, those are dragon breaks as well. Anyways, the point is...
Wait. How's that a dragon break?
Because
like, if you go... Okay, because like, it's... When he travels through time, it's exactly 7 years. So young Link, he's like doing his thing. It's like time is going by. You pull out the sword, you're in the future, but time is still going. So when you go back in time, you go back in time by exactly 7 years. So there's technically still been time going by.
Think about...
Yes, but think about this. If it wasn't dragon break, when you go into the future the first time, all those beans should already be planted. Every bean sprout should already be planted and already have plants. But it's not until you go back in time and plant the bean and then go back to the future, wink wink, that suddenly there's bean plants there.
Yeah.
So if there was no dragon break, the first time you go to the future, all the bean plants would already be planted.
Yeah, it's the paradox. Like, think of it as like the Song of Storms paradox.
Well, that's not a dragon break. That's just a mess.
No, but it technically, like, you can explain it as, like, it's the same thing with the beans though. It's like, if the bean isn't there in the future, the guy knows the song in the future. You go back in time, you teach him the song, and then, like, it's the same kind of concept with the beans. Because, like, in one, he knows it, and then he doesn't, and then in the past, it's there, but it's not there.
The difference between the Song of Storms paradox and the my bean example is that with the Song of Storms paradox, there's no origin to the song. It's loops. It has a looping origin. At least with the beanstalks, there's still a set origin.
And for the people typing in the comments about Link learning it from sharp and flat and Termina, that's a completely different timeline than the adult timeline where Link learns the song.
That's true. I mean, that offers an origin for it in Termina, but Link didn't learn that until, from his perspective, later, right?
Yeah, and it's a completely different timeline.
His future as a child, as opposed to his other future as an adult. It's so weird.
So anyways, what we're trying to say is Aonuma has confirmed that dragon breaks have happened in the past. The only difference is this would be a dragon break where not just all of the different timeline events in the game comes together, but all of the timelines from all the games come together, which is what happens in Elder Scrolls and a bunch of other games, like Final Fantasy 13-2 does it, and it's actually really common in video games where timelines come together.
Yes, so, but my video was the original.
Yeah,
I'm hanging on to that's my stake to fame.
Yeah, Daniel had again the very, very, very first video of it, and then I was of the belief that it was in the child timeline, like long after
That's where I
Twilight
thought
Princess.
Nintendo would pin it, though. Because
Yeah.
I was like, that's my theory, sure, but I always feel like just because it's my theory doesn't mean that's what Nintendo's going to come out and say as fact. Like,
Yeah.
it's just my theory. And I always figured Nintendo will probably come out and say it's in the child timeline. But then they didn't. So it's hard to pin down what Nintendo will do
Yeah.
and what Nintendo don't.
Yeah.
I always just kind of assume they put it in all 3 timelines because they really don't care.
There's that. It's like, yeah, it's wherever you want, kid.
Yeah.
Here's your timeline.
So, yeah, going back to what I was saying is like Daniel came up with the original video. I thought that I strongly believed that it took place in the child timeline, to where like I would even debate with people like, no, that because this and this. And then I was going to do, like, I was talking to Daniel about getting his video that he had posted on the Zelda Informer YouTube channel and having it posted on my channel. But then whenever I started doing the actual research for it, like me doing research, like actual research, reading almost every single interview I could.
But Jesse, what research? I thought you. What about the?
No,
Clicks.
no, I just didn't post.
Misclick? What? Misclick? What?
I just didn't post nonsense to get clicks. I actually did tons of research,
I don't get it.
and I came up and like I convinced myself that Daniel's video was correct, and even came up with more facts to prove it. And the way I did it was, who in the world of Zelda, like we know like Zelda caused the break in the first place, right? Sending Link back in time.
Back in time, yes.
Zelda is the reincarnation of who?
Miyamoto.
Hylia.
The Hylia.
Zelda is the reincarnation of Hylia, and that caused the 3 splits. So who would be able to have enough power over time to make all 3 of the timelines come back together? And it would be there is a character in the game, Miyamoto, yes, but there's a character in the game who is literally called the Goddess of Time. And in Skyward Sword, we are first told about the Goddess of Time when in Majora's Mask, after the split happens, Zelda's talking to Link saying that she and he, whatever, will pray to the Goddess of Time to help him on his journey. And then in Skyward Sword, we get a bunch of evidence suggesting that Hylia is the Goddess of Time, because her temple, the Temple of Time, where there is the pedestal of time, the gate of time that lets you travel through time, in her temple used to be called the Temple of Hylia. And then
yes,
after she went to like reincarnated as Zelda, they started calling it the Temple of Time. So her temple is literally the Temple of Time. So she would definitely be the Goddess of Time. And even though she is reincarnated as Zelda, Fi or Fi, whoever, tells you in the game, like, that Hylia is sending you messages from the edge of time. So even though she gave up her physical form, whatever, to reincarnate as Zelda, she still exists as a goddess in, like, another world, because she is sending messages, as Fi says, from the edge of time. So a goddess living at the edge of time, who again is the god of time, would surely have the power to bring all the timelines back together, since her reincarnated self somehow had the power to split the timeline. But then the downfall timeline's just a mess, like a big what if.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Luke, our special guest. So we explained where it is, gave some proof, gave some actual facts, something that, you know,
some facts and theories.
Hyrule
Fun.
Yeah, and then who was it? Matt Pat completely ripped off Daniel's video with absolutely no
He watered it down with Hyrule Warriors and then made less sense.
Yeah, he took a non-canon game to try to explain a canon timeline. Like it's so cringy. Like when I first seen it
in the realm of theories, I don't think like doing just that is the worst idea. But the problem is even if it was canon, his explanation doesn't really work.
Yeah, because even in Hyrule Warriors, like the timelines don't come together at all. And then at the end of Hyrule Warriors, the entire point of the game is to like keep all the portals closed, keep it separated.
Yeah, everyone goes back home after that. You know,
Yeah.
they don't stay merged.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So, Luke, do you got yours? Or
Yeah,
do you
I
have something to say?
Yeah,
Choose.
I thought that theory was actually pretty good until
All right, kick him out.
until I realized how bad the theory was, because I forgot that like the portals closed and there was a ton of like stuff that I didn't.
Oh yeah.
There was a ton
Even
of
like the
stuff.
map comparison he pulls up, he's like, these maps are identical. Look at these 3 landmarks are in the same place. And he just ignores that the rest of the map is different. he just zooms in on the part that is the same.
Yeah.
Like that mountain's still in the top right, and Hyrule Castle's still in the middle.
See,
Guys.
Jorge says, "Game over, Jesse. Matt Pat wants to know your location." The thing is, I've actually talked to people who used to write for Matt Pat, and they talked all the time about how, like, they left because they felt they didn't get paid enough. That, like, he would say, what was it they would say? You can use this as, like, a boost to get to the job that you want. So like, if you say, I wrote for Game Theory or I wrote for MatPat, then you would easily be able to get a job somewhere like IGN or whatever that actually pays you well. Like, that's what they said, is that basically the fact that they are writing for MatPat should be enough.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's a pretty like full of yourself thing to.
Yeah. But again, that's like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's what I was told. So.
But Luke.
But I was also
Go
told
on.
Daniel's moving, so I don't know if that's true either.
I mean, there's evidence on screen, Jesse.
Moving to a new house. He's
That's just your
upgrading.
box collection.
Daniel started his YouTube channel, all that Patreon money's coming in, and he bought a new house.
Not even the $13 in Patreon money.
I can finally buy that amiibo I wanted.
Oh, hey, you got a good point there.
Yeah, even Zelda Informer. The guy that used to, we're not going to name him, but the person who used to run Zelda Informer even came to us and said that some of his stuff was like copied, stolen, whatever, by MatPat. Like the Link is Dead theory originally came from Zelda Informer, and Zelda
Yes.
Informer is not mentioned at all in that video. Which, honestly, if I worked for YouTube, I would just like delete the video. Like, I would turn it, like, if someone clicked on it, I would turn it into like a Rickroll or something.
Oh my gosh.
My
Yeah.
gosh.
But moving
Redirect.
on, Luke.
Luke, please.
All right.
Luke.
So
Luke.
I-
Luke. Luke. Luke.
Yeah.
Luke.
Okay.
Luke. Luke.
Glue. All right. So I picked number 2. He's a big guy. So it says, in Ocarina of Time, you can go on a rather long side quest in order to get a huge sword called the Bigoron Sword, made by this incredibly large Goron called, well, Bigoron. This sword packs quite the punch, and it's a pretty cool reward for such a long side quest. But I have some questions about Bigoron. Mainly, why is there a giant Goron? And I mean giant. This guy is huge, even for a Goron, just chilling on Death Mountain, and no one addresses it. It's obviously not normal
where he
for Gorons to get that big, so why don't any of the other Gorons bring it up? Was Bigoron just born that way, or did something happen? We never
He
get any
just
kind of
grew.
answer.
He just had a big growth spurt.
He ate.
It's just where he lives. Like, why does he live there at his home?
There were other big Gorons too. Like
Give me the rock sirloin.
no, that quest starts with you literally going to another large Goron to get the giant's knife.
You don't need the giant's knife to do that quest.
No.
If
Yeah,
you don't
you don't
want
need
to.
it.
You can
What?
skip that. But there,
Yeah,
What?
it's an alternate
he is
item.
there though.
Yeah.
Yes,
My-
like you can get the giant's knife, but you can skip that.
My
No,
whole life is a lie.
The Bigoron Sword side quest starts with the Kuko lady in Kakariko Village, where you get the pocket.
Yeah, you get Kojiro.
Yeah, and then that.
No, you get the pocket cuckoo, and
Yeah,
then
the pocket egg turns into a chicken. You wake up Talon, and then you trade the chicken for Kojiro. Go to the Lost Woods. You trade it for the chainsaw,
the handsaw.
the
Which you
handsaw.
then trade for the broken Bigoron sword.
No.
handle.
Actually, no. You trade it for the mushroom. You take it to the potion area for the
Right.
medicine. Then you do the chainsaw. Then it goes to Gerudo Valley. You trade it for the broken Bigoron, the broken giant's knife.
Wait, what about the eye drops?
The eye drops come in later. After you take the broken giant's knife over to Death Mountain, and then you trade
Right.
that
He's like,
or the
Oh,
prescription note. Yeah, and he's like,
yeah, he's giant.
yeah. He wakes up and he's just, oh my arm. Oh. Okay, yeah. And,
It's because he stood up, a volcano erupted, and his face was right there.
I do know that too.
Hot ash lava.
I got volcanic acid in my eyes. I feel like, oh, yeah, I do that too. But no, yeah. So then after the freaking prescription note, you take that to King Zora, and then you get the frog, and then you take that to the scientist in the laboratory. Then you get the eye drops, and then you trade it in for the claim check.
Claim check, yes.
And then the big round sword. I'm so glad that I have that memorized. Okay.
Yeah, that is some good knowledge.
So here's the
I'm proud of
real,
you.
like, the real thing that's like unexplained.
The eye
Why?
drops are
No,
loud.
no. Why?
That's-
Why doesn't Link?
It's true, they are.
Why doesn't Big Goron? No. Listen. Why doesn't Big Goron just reach inside the volcano and like pull out 𝐓𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷, who would be the size of his finger, and just squish him?
He was having a big Goron nap. He didn't know what was going on.
Oh, okay, thanks.
He was napping for like a year.
Dude, he ate a lot of rock sirloin.
Or like when he seen Ganondorf walking up Death Mountain to resurrect this thing, he could have just like flicked him. Like,
That guy's got the Triforce of Power. I bet if he tried to flick Ganondorf could just be like, catch his finger.
oh
That's
yeah,
how big
that's
his
right.
finger would be. It's
He
just
could
like,
just-
no.
Absorb the energy and just right back at.
Or maybe Ganondorf, while he was sleeping, sprinkled volcanic ash in Big Goron's eyes to stop him from interfering.
And that's why he needed eye drops.
That's why he needed
Ganondorf was just like, he just sprinkled chili powder in his eyes while he's sleeping, and that's why he needs eye drops.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, there you go. No, but I think the question was asking, like, why is this Goron so big compared to the other Gorons? Because like all the other ones are like, the size of Link, height-wise, and then this one is almost the size of the mountain.
Okay,
So
so here it is. This is the real explanation. The Gorons get bigger, like just as any animal or whatever does. Like if they eat more, then they get
So
bigger.
he ate.
He lives at the top of the volcano
Goron?
where all of those rocks are like shooting up and falling. So he's able to like get the rocks as they're
You know when
like
you
fresh.
Throw popcorn and you're like,
Yeah.
like,
So he's there to constantly eat all of that.
Just, hey, fetch.
just
No, so
the other Goron's like, God, they're big.
does that not
boulders.
work though?
Like,
Does,
Yeah.
does that not work?
Sure. It's just one of those things. Like,
I got nothing, so that works. Okay.
Yeah,
it's just
and-
one of
and
those
even-
things. It's like weird Zelda stuff. There's like a clown that has a cannon. There's a flying chicken game, and there's like
No,
like
so
giant
an-
Goron, and there's fish people. Like
another
it's just
thing,
a Zelda.
another thing in Breath of the Wild, the king of the Zoras is giant as well. They
That's
didn't
true.
mention that in this. Like sometimes there's just giant people.
He's very swole. He works out a lot.
Well, I don't know. He looks a little. It looks like he used to work out a lot.
Just
And
just
now he's got the
works-
dad bod.
he just works the shoulders. He just works the shoulders.
Lyrian
That's it.
Woods, Lyrian Woods. I hope I pronounced that right. Says I bet Big Goron has epic turds.
I bet.
That's what's falling
There's
on Link when
big
he's running up
rocks.
Death Mountain.
Yeah. So.
Oh
it's
no,
just
that's
one of
a
those
horrifying
So,
image
Daniel,
to
do you want
think
to go to
about.
yours?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
God.
I mean, skipping over all the like, why is Link that in this list? Here's the one that's number 16 on the list. These guys are all one person, huh? So it reads, Ganondorf is the main villain in most of the Zelda games.
What number is
his-
this?
Number 16. But his very nature can be a bit confusing, especially when he also goes by Ganon. According to Nintendo, Ganon and Ganondorf are both the same person, but
No.
that doesn't make sense. The fact that Ganondorf can take the form of a human and a monstrous beast makes his nature a little confusing. Is he a man? Is he a beast? Is he the evil entity that takes the form of a man, or is he a man that got corrupted by power? And just what are his origins? While there are a few things that hint at his nature, we still don't know a ton about this guy. Gee, I wish there was an entire game dedicated to his origin story and how he became Ganon. If only there was a game released 20 years ago that covered that very topic. Yep.
Say, Daniel, did this game involve traveling through time?
You know, it sure did. It sure did.
Daniel, was there a game released within the past, 7-8 years that also went on to explain the origins of Ganon?
Well, wouldn't you know it? It sure happened.
So let's see here. Ganondorf, from what the games tell us, just these two games, Ocarina of Time and Skyward Sword. Ganondorf was just a normal king of the Gerudo. Yeah, he had some good ideas, but he went about it in the wrong way, is the way that it went.
Murdering way.
Yeah, but he was kind of pushed into it, not just by his evil parent, guardians, whatever, Twinrova, whatever they are to Ganondorf.
Surrogate mothers.
Yeah.
Double mom.
Not only was he pushed to the dark side by the dark side, not only was he
dark side.
Not only did he become Darth Ganondorf, thanks to his surrogate mother's Twinrova, who kept pushing him to the dark side, but he was also, over time, slowly corrupted, from what we learned in Skyward Sword, by Demise' hatred for the gods and the goddesses and all of the Hylian people. And it's that corruption that turns him into Ganon. Ganon is the evil darkness and everything from Demise physically manifesting, whereas Ganondorf is just the person who is corrupted by the evil. And then there is a completely different Ganondorf in the
Four Swords Adventure?
Four Swords. Or is it a different Ganon, not Ganondorf?
Both.
Yeah, it's both.
It's both.
And then I think
Ganondorf is the Ganon in that same game, but they are separate. They are the one instance of it being a separate Ganon / Ganondorf.
Yeah, it was a new king named Ganondorf.
So the Ganondorf timeline, he is a guy, a normal dude with a backstory in Ocarina of Time. In the adult timeline, he gets sealed away, breaks out, and is the same man in Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And then he dies. In the child timeline, he is sentenced to be executed, becomes Dark Beast Ganon at the end of Twilight Princess. He becomes Ganon at the end of Ocarina of Time as well. Like he literally, there's no like, oh, I don't get it. Is he the same thing? Like he literally, you see him transform into Ganon. Like there's no like lack of information on this subject. It's something you just witness happen. And then in the Downfall timeline, he just stays as Ganon. Just loses his human entirely. But it's just, there is no gaps of information.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that there's like only one other. I mean, I would like to see more instances where it's a separate Ganondorf, but like it's cool that these are all the same because it's all the different timelines and stuff. But it does still work that this is a different Ganondorf, but it's still Ganondorf because of Demise's curse, where he cursed the blood of the hero and reincarnation. So Ganondorf is a part of that reincarnation because he has the part of that hero curse.
Yeah.
Unless I'm thinking of it wrong.
No, you're. The thing is, yeah, the curse from Demise is spirit of the hero, the blood of the goddess, and an incarnation of Demise's hatred, which is implied to be Ganondorf. But technically could really apply to any Zelda villain. It could be Malladus, it could be Bellum or Vadi.
Yeah.
As long as there is hatred in the world.
Yuga,
then
it is transformed into Ganon as well.
Not quite.
No.
So Yuga
Summons Ganon.
releases the seal on Ganon from A Link to the Past, brings
Lorule.
him up, and then merges with him.
Could that be more proof that Lorule is partially the Dark World because Ganon was sealed inside of it?
But he brings him up while in Hyrule.
Does he?
Yeah.
I could have sworn
It's in
they
Hyrule Castle.
I could have sworn that after you fight Yuga, you go through the wall crack and you go into Lorule, and that's where he does the seal break. And you're in Lorule.
Maybe I'm misremembering.
You're
I
in
thought it was
Lorule
immediately
Castle.
after that you
I
go.
swear it was in Lorule Castle. I might be wrong about that.
Because I thought it was in Hyrule Castle, and immediately after that happened, that you go to Lorule Castle through the crack in the wall. But no, you might be right, actually.
Because I could have sworn
I think the final boss fight is in Lorule Castle.
Yeah, it is. So like I could have sworn like the seal breaks,
You might be
and
right.
then after like Ganon is freed, and then Yuga merges with Ganon, and they become like that superior being.
But
Then Link gets sent away or whatever. Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean Lorule is the Dark World, because if Ganon was sealed, he wouldn't be in Hyrule or Lorule. He would have been sealed somewhere else. So in theory, it could still be possible that Yuga could like have the ability to revive him and bring him out of that seal in either place. If Ganondorf was sealed in a third location, in maybe the actual Sacred Realm.
Yeah.
So
He probably wasn't sealed in Lorule. I think he was just doing a spell with all the sages.
Yeah, I think that's what
that's probably what he's doing.
he probably, well, I think because he retreated there to get away from, and then do the spell there.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
yes, good theory. Not theory. Again, not a theory. It's not a theory.
It's
just
not a game
thing that
theory.
happened.
It's just something that happened. It's not a game theory. Pat, don't copyright this.
Do not. Anyways, I chose that one. It was the one that made me cringe the most.
All these pictures make me cringe.
The pictures also, the stolen fan art
Yes.
in this article is pretty bad, but also the just the fact that they're like, it doesn't make any sense, and we don't know, like we still don't know a ton about this guy, and it's like, if anything, we know more about him than Link and Zelda, because Link and Zelda, it's like you play as that character in one game and that's it. But Ganondorf and Ganon exist through so many of these different games. We see him more. So, and unlike Link, we actually get like dialogue from him. So, that's it's just not correct.
All right.
I'm
Sorry.
Can I
Yeah,
read
Luke.
something real quick? Yeah.
$2 you can read.
Dang.
No, you've super chatted us before and stuff. You can go ahead.
All right. Cool. Thanks. So, I think your name. I don't know how to say that. Is that Javier?
Yeah.
Yeah. He said, "Didn't Lorule get created because the Link from A Link to the Past touched the Triforce and his balanced heart turned the Sacred Realm into a paradise, like Zelda said in Ocarina of Time?" I don't know how to answer that.
It's a no.
Lorule is its own thing.
Yeah, Lorule is just another. It's just another world that exists. It was A Link to the Past. He did change the Sacred Realm back to, basically his wish was to undo the damage that had been done by Ganon and Aghanim. So all the damage in Hyrule, the king is revived, all the maidens go back home, his uncle survives, your uncle recovers. That's the end credits.
Yeah.
Tell you. Lorule became it's in its dark state when they had in their world their own Triforce, which they destroyed to prevent political conflict, but it actually started causing other problems for them, like their world literally crumbling. So
Easy
that's-
answer for this. The end of A Link Between Worlds, they go to the Sacred Realm, and it's not the Dark World, it is the Sacred Realm. They are
Yes.
in the, not the Chamber of
and
Sages.
it's beautiful.
What's it called? The Temple of no.
It's not
I
a
don't think
temple.
there's a name for it where
They
you
go to the Chamber of Sages in A Link Between Worlds.
They do go there, yes.
And then there's like this pathway out from it with like columns going up, and then there's the Triforce that they have to get to. So
It's
like
beautiful.
they literally go to the restored, beautiful Sacred Realm. I forgot what it was. I was thinking
Yes.
Silent Realm, Low World, Dark World, Termina, like all of
I
these
guess
different
they go
worlds.
to the Temple of Light.
Yeah.
The Chamber of Sages is a chamber.
Inside
in
the
the
Temple of Light.
Yes.
So
That makes sense.
in A Link Between Worlds, you have Hyrule, Lorule, and the future restored version of the Dark World. Because
you
the
know what
Dark
I really
World-
love about that bit? First of all, the Chamber of Sages being back. Like first time seeing it from Ocarina of Time. I love that.
That was really
Then
cool.
when you go out into that area where you actually see the Triforce, it's so reminiscent of this artwork from A Link to the Past of like basically like backstory artwork of the Triforce in the Sacred Realm, and it like looks just like that, and it's just like it just hits me in all the right nostalgia places because A Link to the Past was my first Zelda game, so that game just A Link Between Worlds I played, I'm like I get all giddy. So anyways,
yeah,
it's beautiful. That's what I'm saying. It's a beautiful time. It's beautiful. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're good. We're good.
So yes, Javier in the chat, you got it right. Like they're basically both just parallel dimensions.
Yeah.
Well, like Termina is not. Termina is that's another topic, but yes.
yeah. There are interviews where it's called like an alternate dimension or a parallel world, but there's also interviews where Aonuma, who created the game, states that it is a physical location located next to Hyrule. So for all we know, that area to the north of Hyrule in Breath of the Wild could be Termina, based off of that interview that Aonuma said.
Yeah. The thing is with Termina is it's such a messy topic because Hyrule Historia says one thing, Hyrule Encyclopedia says another thing, and then all these other people, like the game manual in the Zelda's collector's pack for the GameCube says another thing about Termina. So it's just a big hodgepodge of them.
Yeah. But I go by not the game manuals and stuff because those are written by different people. I go by like the guy who created the game.
Yes. Well, exactly. That's the thing, and that's I think the most trustworthy source. That and also what's happening in game as well.
Yeah. Because like it being created by Skull Kid putting on the mask, but there are memories and cutscenes that take place long before he gets the mask. Like when you go to the tree at the bottom of the, like when you're getting close to the swamp area, there's the drawing on the tree that triggers the cutscene, and it shows the fairies first meeting the Skull Kid under the hollowed out log tree thing, whatever it is. And then like the next day he's doing cartwheels and stuff in the grass and sitting on top of it, and they're all having fun and whatnot. That cutscene could not exist if Hyrule Historia was
If any
correct.
of them were. Yeah. No, I think it's Zelda Encyclopedia that
Yeah.
says that it's created by the mats.
Yeah, so like the game itself disproves that. But anyways, let's move on to the next topic, the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
Daniel, do you want to do it? Or Luke,
Yes.
do you want to do it? I don't have it, so it's up to you guys.
If you want me to do it, I can do it.
Sure, I did another thing. Go for it, Luke. Take us away.
Oh,
article.
baby. Let's do this. All right.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Can I get a click in the chat? That was beautiful.
It is. Think about this. Think about this. It is 1:30 a.m. for me.
Same here.
34 people are watching.
Wow.
Do you have
That's
work
pretty-
tomorrow,
These
Daniel?
guys for making bad decisions. I do, but
Okay,
who
here,
needs
Daniel.
sleep?
Can
Who
you
needs sleep?
write down 204?
Okay.
All right. Now you can start on the next topic.
All right. So am I doing an introduction?
Yes.
Wait, Luke's doing it?
Introdu-
Cool. Yeah, you just got to be like, hello everyone, I am Luke, blah, 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 blah.
No. You're Jesse. He's Luke.
Can I actually do that?
Yeah, do it. Say like, what's up?
Guys,
Or, no, yeah.
okay.
Okay, so go, hello everyone, I am Jesse, or as you may know me, Game Over Jesse. Here with us is Daniel and Luke. So yeah, just do it like that. And then be like,
right.
Today we're going to be talking about, and then read out the title, and then say like what website it's from and everything. So that's the way that we do it.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So here we go. All right.
And comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the Game Over Jesse channel, please consider purchasing a Game Over Jesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.